Sharaya, and You Know I Got Soul is definitely BANJI certified.
I read that your career, you started off in the dance industry, so how did you get your start there?
Yeah, well, I kind of, first of all, I never took a dance class before in my life.
Okay.
But I think it was just something I've done, as a child, and, hello?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, and, I was in Jersey City just kind of doing, like, the local things. But once I had decided that I really wanted to try to take it, I really wanted to become a dancer, like, mainstream. I started to venture into New York a little bit to see, what was going on, if I could take any, how could I get in the scene. And I eventually ran into a dance crew called Next Level, and, asked me could I be a part of their crew, and I did. And from then, you just kind of get more involved in everything, and then, you become a member of that scene first.
Yeah.
And then once I was able to become a member of that scene, then a big agency called Clear Talent Group that was originally in LA. They were opening a New York City headquarters, and so I went for the audition, and they found me.
Oh, very cool. Now, talk about how that transitioned into a music career.
Well, the funny thing is, I've always been very into music and just into artistry. As a child, I was always doing things like writing and poems and raps. And, my father was a part of a major, like a real hip-hop group. And so I was always around the studio and just around those kind of creative events. And so I ran into Missy mainly because we had a mutual friend. She's always been very into the dance industry. And been into dancing in the dance world. And so we had a mutual friend who introduced us, and we were just all like hanging out and dancing, and she was like, yo, are you an artist? And I told her, like, I was trying to, I was dabbling in it, as a next venture from my dancing career, and she kind of was just like, well, let me take you under my wing and really make it good stuff. So from then we just started, collabing together.
Okay, very cool. Now, you talked about how you originally linked up with Missy. I read that you guys originally linked up in 2010, so it's been almost 3 years since then, and, I know for a lot of new artists, when they get signed, they expect everything to be immediate and, that they come out right away, but it took you 3 years, so what was that whole journey and process like for you?
Well, it was really 2008.
Okay.
And so it's been more like 5 good years. But, to be honest, when I initially got with her, I didn't completely know what it entailed, you know what I mean? Because she really has a true formula, and there's really like a method to her madness. And she kind of was just like, listen, we have to get in here and get isolated and really focus on what we want to, bring out of you. Because what the great thing that Missy does is she sees something in a person already. You have to have that something already. And then once she sees something in you, all she does is refine those things about you. You know what I mean? And so she kind of just put me through a boot camp, and it was no joke. I mean, rehearsal, even when we didn't have shows, just rehearsing, writing every day, make sure, I was in there dancing, working on my freestyle every single day. And it's hard work. It was hard work, dropping lectures on me all the time, wisdom, jewels here and there, just making sure I was really prepared, because he wanted to make sure that when I came out, it was right, and it wasn't just for a quick second, that I would have some longevity in this business.
Yeah. But as far as, the long wait, was that ever frustrating for you? And, did you eventually get over that?
Absolutely. It's a journey, it's a tough journey, because, it's moments when you feel like, I think I'm ready. And she'll be like, not yet. You still have to make sure, that this is together. And you kind of have to sit back and genuinely just remain a student and trust her judgment, you know what I mean, because she does have so much experience. And so, of course, there are days when you're ready to just get out there already, because, you know, but I thank God that, you know, that I was able to just wait it out, because I feel like timing is everything. And now at this place, I feel like I'm more prepared and, you know, and very well versed on so many things that I wasn't, you know, 4 to 5 years ago.
Yeah. So what do you think has been the biggest change from now and 5 years ago? Like, how did you know that now was the right time for you?
You know, it was just a feeling. I think that, you know, before any of those things, if I had that feeling before, it was just based upon, like, just being anxious and just being excited to go, you know, and, but this time around, it just felt right. The beginning of the beginning going into 2013, it just started to feel right. I just felt very comfortable, and I just kept saying, you know, in me, I'm like, it's now or never. We got to go now. And for the first time, she said, "You're right."
Oh, wow.
and so, you know, it was really just genuinely just a feeling, and it felt right, and so we just went with it.
Oh, very cool. Now, talk a little bit about your musical influences, because when I listen to your music, I get a little bit of everything. So, just talk about the influences.
Okay, well, I grew up in the 90s era, you know what I mean? And so I was very influenced by those artists, because they are the reason, like, that's the reason why I fell in love with hip-hop, the 80s and the 90s, you know, and I definitely look at the people like TLC and Salt and Pepper and Missy and Aaliyah and Biggie and Wu-Tang and Onyx, and I just appreciated, like, the Onyx and Wu-Tang, their movement, you know what I mean? And so how they just moved together and in a squad, and so I could appreciate that, and so that's something I wanted to, you know, include in my movement and in my music. And the idea of women too being, you know, appreciated just for their raw talent, and those artists were just superstars to me. And, you know, you love that artist and you love their music, and you know, and then I'm influenced by a lot of, you know, my father, trust me, he was a big influence in my life too, because I watched him do it. You know, I sat home and watched him go in the bathroom, lock himself in the bathroom for hours, just with a beat and a pen and a pad. And, you know, as a child, I didn't really understand it, but subconsciously, you know, it was embedding something inside of me, you know, to make me fall in love with music.
And, of course, right now you have the BANJI movement going on, so talk to me a little bit about that movement and how that concept came about.
Okay, well, yeah, like I was saying, I was very inspired to kind of develop a movement when I came out, because I feel like, you know, as artists, you know, God gives us our gifts so that we can, you know, He blesses us with our gifts so that we can be a blessing to, you know, to other people. And so when I was coming out, I just was thinking about, you know, what could I do that could empower, you know, the people already trying to play around with some ideas. And the funny thing is that me and Missy had set up a meeting with some record execs, and they came over and they heard the records, and of course we do everything big. So I did a performance with some dancers, and, you know, we had a whole meeting, and then the next day they gave us a call. And I remember Missy being on the phone with them, and then she came upstairs to me and said, you know, I was talking to them, they like the record, and it's like they think you're an amazing performer, but all you need to do now is just wear a little less clothes, put on some heels, and then get a weave.
Wow.
And then you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I was really taken aback by that, because, you know, because I thought that, you know, the great thing about artistry was that there's an opportunity for you to express yourself creatively, you know, who you are at your core.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that, you know, I said I would have felt better if they would have been like, you know, hey, the records are all right, or maybe, you know, she's a little more stage presence. But just the fact that those things that just, in my opinion, don't matter, you know, when it comes to music, it's about the music, the raw talent. And so, you know, it kind of hit home in a way. And I I remember being up in my room just debating about, about that situation and just about, my movement together. And while I was in the room, I actually just was playing around with the word BANJI anyway, because it's a word that's already out there. And so then I just remember writing down the paper, Individuality.
Yeah.
And then it was just like something just happened, and gradually I wrote down a word next to everything. And then I just wrote down, be authentic, never jeopardize individuality, because that's what I was inspired to do. And so then I called Missy in the room. I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do for the people. Let them know, be a representation of, people should respect you for your uniqueness, not try to make you change it.
Yeah.
And so she loved the idea, and right there she was like, that's a great idea. Let's roll with that.
So do you think the whole movement has been successful so far, while you're looking at Twitter and everything? Do you think it's been successful? And have people been catching on to it?
Yeah, I think so. I think me and Miss kind of just came out and we just dropped it out of nowhere. We didn't really do too much, gearing people up for it, and to see how attached people are to it, with just being something just fresh and new. And I think that even subconsciously or whether it's consciously, people are ready for something new, ready to bring that individuality back and that authenticity, you know what I mean? Because a lot of things are very watered down now, and, everybody's following trends, and, and I've always been encouraged to be a trendsetter, because each and every person has something different to bring to the table,
Yeah.
And so I think that people have embraced it, and they want to embrace it. And I think that the idea, I've even had, parents hit me on Twitter and be like, this is great for my child, because I try to encourage, my children to be, a true representation of themselves, and they don't have to be like everybody else to be cool.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something very important that each and every one of us should live by.
Yep, definitely. And of course, right now, you just dropped the video for BANJI, so talk about the concept for the video and how it all came about.
Yeah, well, BANJI is the music is a Jersey club beat, what we call Jersey club. And I grew up in Jersey, so I grew up on that kind of music. And so I really wanted to, use the record, as a ode to the fact that I did, grow up in Jersey. And so it kind of was a perfect match for me, because that was authentic to what I used to listen to. And so when we went to go shoot the video, I was like, of course, let's go find some spots in Jersey City that I used to actually hang out at.
Yep.
And that would be cool for me, because that would be, a representation of me. Like, that was like a store that we used to go and buy candy from as kids. You know what I mean? And those are just areas that we used to hang out at. And I wanted it to be raw, too. I wanted it to be a raw showcase of talent, because I didn't want all the bells and whistles, just things that show pure creativity and just straight dancing. And the dance moves are inspired by like Jersey club grooves, and we just wanted to be creative too, and to show the people that we can still be creative. We don't have to, we don't have to pop bottles or fly airplanes and all those things. I mean, those things are great. But we can still, just stick straight to pure talent and really still make a statement.
Yeah. And, let's talk about your music a little bit, because, I'm sure with the affiliation, with Missy, a lot of people are going to compare your music to hers. But what do you think your music, the sound of it is, and, what do you want people to get from your music?
Well, I think naturally, they will make comparisons. But, I don't look at that as a bad thing, mainly because Missy, she is my mentor.
Yeah.
And so, of course, when it's like a mother and a child, or a teacher and a student, when they teach you something and that thing's in you, naturally, you pick up similarities. And so, and if I had to be compared to anybody, I would So why not choose Missy, somebody like her? So that doesn't make me feel, that doesn't make me feel any kind of way, actually. You know what I mean? Of course that will happen.
Yeah.
But one thing that she's taught me and that I try to do is make sure that any of my music I feel it, and I want to always make it authentic to me. And I'm a dancer, so a lot of it is going to be, up-tempo. And because I want joints that I can dance to, that I can get busy to when I go out and, and we go out and we party. I want the clubs to start moving again. And, because I do love hip-hop too, there is a real raw hip-hop root in some of my records as well. And, I just think that I don't shoot to do any kind of particular music. I just stick to whatever happens organically, and if it feels good to me, I roll with that. Because that's all I can really do.
Yeah. Finally, what's coming up for you? You just dropped a video. Are we going to expect some more music coming up?
Yeah. I'm working on something else, a surprise.
Okay.
And I got a lot of music. I got a lot of joints that I am going to share with you guys. And I'm just excited to just show the world the different facets of me and what the BANJI movement represents. And we got a lot of good things coming up. We've just begun. And hopefully that it will, get people connected back to that real place, that real place in music.
Yeah.
When we were fighting to be creative, you know what I mean? Or fighting to be, to stand out.
Yeah. And, who are some people that you've worked with aside from Missy?
I've worked with, Missy, we kind of keep everything in-house.
Yeah.
She has a bunch of her own producers. And so we run it like it's so funny because we always call it like a boot camp. We call it camp. And we run it like that. And she's like the sergeant and everybody else. And she got producers underneath us and underneath her. And right now I'm the only artist that she's working with. And so we're like a little family. So it's just mainly our artists. I do work with Weber the Machine a lot. And he's an artist, a producer out of Memphis. And DJ J Hood, who did the track. And another producer from here, Jersey, his name is D-Boy, and Timberland, and of course, Timberland, we always give his input on everything we do too. So we just got our own little family. We kind of keep it in house, and we just got our own little crew over here.
Yeah, very cool. And that's all that I had for you. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
Cool. No, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for having me.